Are you being recorded right now? Okay, okay.
Technically, but don't worry about
Okay.
it. Take your time.
I always do love the mic and the headset. It reminds me of the Saturday Night Live skit, the NPR,
We'll just take a picture of you.
Yeah, yeah.
You look so official. Welcome to Podsdale, brought to you by the City of Scottsdale. Join us to explore the stories that make our city a world-class community. Welcome back to Podsdale, the City of Scottsdale's podcast, where we take you behind the scenes of your city government.
Today, we're focusing on a topic that's top of mind for a lot of residents, water, where it comes from, what challenges we're facing, and how Scottsdale is preparing for the future.
Joining us is Gretchen Baumgartner, Water Policy Manager for Scottsdale Water. She's here to help us sort through the facts about drought, the Colorado River, and what it all means for our community.
We'll also talk about Scottsdale's track record of innovation when it comes to water and how residents can stay informed and play a role in the conversation.
Gretchen, we're so glad to have you here. Welcome to Podsdale.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Before we get into everything, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself and how you came into this role?
Oh, yeah, certainly. So I'm an Arizona native. I'm originally from Tucson. I got my undergraduate degree from the University of Arizona in agricultural and biosystems engineering. But I took a lot of classes in the civil engineering school. And then after school, I moved up here to the Valley as a consulting engineer, where I did hydraulic models of cities' distribution systems. And then in the downturn, I decided to go to grad school, and I got into ASU. So I did my master's in water resource engineering, where I did a hydrologic model, which is rain and snow and inflow into a stream, of the Beaver Creek up in northern Arizona. And then after that, I kind of decided that I really like the idea of public service and working with communities. And I went to work as an analyst for the city of Mesa. And that was probably about 12 years ago. So I've been in public service for over a decade now, and I've been with Scottsdale for almost 6 years now. And it's been really fun working in water and working for my community. And the water world is definitely complicated, and it is getting even more so. So I'm happy to be here talking about it.
And to say she's a specialist in the field is an understatement with that background.
Definitely, yeah. It sounds like you have a lot of experience. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah. Let's start with the basics, Gretchen. Where does Scottsdale's water actually come from?
That's a really great question, because you'd actually be surprised when you ask people. Most of them actually don't know. So when you turn on your tap, it's a beautiful makeup of a bunch of different sources. So the vast majority of our water comes from the Colorado through the Central Arizona Project. And then a smaller portion, about 15% or so, comes from the Verdian, the Salt River, the in-state watersheds. SRP supplies us that. Another smaller fraction comes from groundwater. We pump it from the aquifer underneath your feet, and it's a very small fraction, anywhere from 5 to 6%. And we keep that percentage really low because we want to keep those aquifers really healthy, because we're going to need to call on them in the future a little bit more than we do right now. So right now we pump groundwater for peaking in the summers and for operational flexibility. And then there's another portion which isn't in your taps, but it's more for grass and turf facilities, golf courses, polo fields, soccer fields, and a couple of parks, where we send some of our reclaimed water to those turf facilities for irrigation purposes.
I know reclaimed water is a big topic here in the city. Can you just go a little bit more into what that is?
Yeah, totally. So let's talk a little bit about reclaimed water and some of the concepts around reclaimed water and kind of expand everyone's knowledge on that. So the water cycle is beautiful. You get it at your tap, but we also carry the water away from your house when you run your dishwasher, when you run your shower, and when you flush your toilet. And it gets collected in our collection system, and it gets treated at a conventional wastewater treatment facility. We all have those. Here in Scottsdale, we have an advanced water purification facility that takes it several steps further, actually. And that's a lot of that water right now is used for the golf courses, or we recharge it underneath our feet in the aquifer. People have been doing this all over the world for decades, is using reclaimed water for grass or aquifer recharge. We like to give the Mississippi as a really great kind of a visual for folks, right? So if you're a city or a town on the Mississippi and you treat your wastewater through a conventional wastewater reclamation plant, and then you have to discharge it someplace, and then you discharge it in the Mississippi. And then you're a downstream town or city that uptakes the Mississippi water and puts it through their conventional water treatment facility. It's a water cycle. And so drops of water don't get brand new. It's all of a cycle. So recycled water on the planet has been around for a long time, and the technology to make it pure is been around for a long time. And some of that stuff we do right here in Scottsdale.
And we're very successful at doing it,
We
too.
are. We've been doing it for decades.
Groundwater, you mentioned earlier, and it's really more of a backup option. I don't know if that's the correct way to term that, but why isn't it a silver bullet, and what risks do we face if we overuse it?
So many, many decades ago, take back to the 1950s, where that was a big source for the valley. People were pumping it like crazy. And the governance system was developed around groundwater because the idea is we needed to stop pumping so much. So the Groundwater Management Act of 1980 was developed here in the state around the most populous areas, Phoenix being one of those areas, to stop so much groundwater pumping. Groundwater is a mostly finite resource. There is some recharge, but we were pumping it more than it was actually being naturally recharged. So the idea is, yes, the Department of Water Resources regulates the groundwater. They track it. They measure it. We all have to report it. But the concept as we walk through the future is we have the right to pump it, but how much we pump it into the future and what increments and how everyone else is pumping is really important because it is a finite resource. So if we all turn our groundwater wells on in a handful of years or a decade, it's gone. So we have to really understand how we manage it for our futures, for our children's futures. And it is a backup supply, but it is not something to be 100% reliant on.
Obviously, we live here in Arizona, which is considered a desert. Can you talk a little bit more about, in recent years, the drought and how that kind of affects our water supply?
Yeah, so the Colorado River Basin has been in a 2.5-decade-long drought. We're not getting the snowpack that we've seen in the first 100 years of recorded history. There's some data out there that is showcasing this tree ring data that this dry period is centuries old. It's a really, really dry period. And the biggest concerning part is when it does snow at like 100-year average, or a 30-year average, and you're like, it's snowing, it's great. It's an average snowpack. It gets hotter sooner than it has before. It gets windier. And so that snow does not turn into stream flow. It sublimates into the atmosphere. Or the year before that, the soil was really dry. You didn't get a good monsoon. And so when it does snow, the soil soaks it up. So this is what climatologists are calling aridification. And so it's really hard to predict what kind of stream flow, is our supply, and what kind of supply we're going to get even when it does snow. It's really challenging. And the supply we've gotten and allocated on the Colorado River is just not. There's not enough supply for what is actually in people's portfolio. There are 40 million folks in the 7 basin states that have access to the Colorado and the portions of Mexico. So there's a whole other country that has access to this river. And it's just there's not enough supplies for the plans that people have.
So a few snowy winters or a couple of years of good monsoons won't be enough to fix that issue.
I think it's anytime it rains, it's glorious and we love it, but it does not fix the problem.
You mentioned that Scottsdale relies heavily on the Colorado River, but Arizona has what we might call junior water rights. What does that mean in practical terms for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Colorado River was kind of divided up in 1922 amongst the 7 basin states. So there's Arizona, Nevada, California, which are our lower basin states, and we have right now we're fighting with the upper basin. So Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico. And so we're all kind of fighting over this river. And so that fight is over 100 years old, right? There's a governance system, there's agreements, there's settlements, there's court cases, and each one of these things layer, and that's over 100 years old. And when that was settled, so the 1922 Colorado River Compact gives us junior priority. Well, that particular doesn't. Arizona and California sued each other and went to the Supreme Court. And it was settled that we got junior priority to California. So I'm just talking about the lower basin states. So in all practical means, it means that Arizona could get cut in consideration to California. California's been a really great player, and they've been our partner in this. But in state, the Central Arizona Project is what's junior priority to on-river folks. So all the different users, like down in Yuma Agriculture, Yuma the city itself, we have a junior priority. So when when stuff like that happens in Western water is junior priority means when there's a reduction in supply, those folks with the most junior priority get cut first. And as you get more senior, you have a more substantial rate. So right now we're the lower basin states are fighting with the upper basin states on what that actually means. And it's a tough legal conversation because everyone interprets the compact a little bit differently. And it's really important to determine that, to find out how we actually understand the river and how we're going to manage it into the future.
How might that affect Scottsdale residents?
Ooh, it's a good one. I like to talk about Scottsdale's water resource portfolio, but I also like to be mindful that we don't kind of individual cities and individual providers don't kind of sit alone in their challenge with the Colorado River. So what happens on the Colorado River and what happens down the Central Arizona Project Canal that feeds a lot of Phoenix area cities, including Scottsdale, like we're all in this together because our economies are so tightly wound together. What this means is as water gets depleted from Arizona, is CEP is first on the docket, and Scottsdale has a number of different buckets within the Colorado or within this Central Arizona project. So there is a priority structure to the Central Arizona project, and the vast majority is our bucket has pretty decent rates on the Central Arizona project. I mean, what it really means is how low will the cuts go to Arizona, which means how low will the cuts go to Scottsdale. And right now, that's a really tough question for anyone and me to answer, is because we just don't know how low those cuts are going to go, because the negotiation is happening right now and it's stalled and we're running out of time. So the hardest part right now, my job is for me to say, I don't have answers to that right now. What we can do is we can plan for infrastructure and conservation, but to understand the reduction of our Colorado River is one of the most challenging things. Is there's so much uncertainty that I can't quantify it.
And I'm also an Arizona native, and I think most people are familiar with the Valley's Canal system, but explaining that shows Scottsdale's connection to Cap Water. It's really important.
Yeah, both the Central Arizona Project Canal, but also the SRP Canal, right? I'm a South Scottsdale girl, and I love running along the canals. And so the ones in South Scottsdale, the Arizona Canal, which is about just south of Indian Bend, and then goes through Old Town, right? We've all been at the waterfront. That's the Arizona Canal, and that carries salt and verde water to us, SRP water to us, and the SRP water is governed completely differently. That water is tied to the land. So my parcel of land in South Scottsdale, it was put under agricultural production back in 1890. And so it has 1890 rights to it. And whoever farmed my land more than 100 years ago put up that land for collateral to build Roosevelt Dam. And that tied that water to the land. So you can't really take SRP water, what we call off project, because that water is tied to the land. The fun part about SRP water is because when those dams were built and that water was tied to the land, the Bureau of Reclamation, along with 22 stakeholders, including Scottsdale, is looking at raising Bartlett Dam, which is on the Verde side of the system. Now, the Verde side of the system doesn't have enough storage capacity, and there's reasons for that, but we're trying to amend that and rebuild Bartlett Dam 100 feet because that system right now spills, so basically lets go of water 40% of the time. So as you can imagine, any kind of construction project like that will take over a decade.
Yeah.
But when we capture that water, it'll be different than the water like delivered, like that's legally tied to my piece of parcel. Is I can move that any place within the city of Scottsdale, or Phoenix can move it any place within the city of Phoenix. It'll be really flexible water once we can get that dam built. But again, a decade to a decade and a half out.
Looking forward when it comes to water conservation within the city, I know that Scottsdale does have a history of being pretty innovative with water. Can you share some examples that Scottsdale residents might not be too familiar with?
Yeah. So we are statutorily required to have a conservation program. And even with that, we go above and beyond what's actually required of us. So we have about 25 programs and initiatives that we have in the conservation office. Education, obviously, data analytics and getting people out there with their own water usage. So 2 things people I think should be aware of. And we always talk about water usage, and your water usage at your home is mostly outside. Most people don't realize the vast majority of your water is outside. So when you have your irrigation system, we have 2 things. If you want to understand your irrigation system, we have a specialist that will come out and talk about your water usage and how you can really optimize it. And then if you have a piece of grass in your, let's say, front yard, and you're like, I'm not really using this is more aesthetic, My backyard is where I spend time. We have a incentive rebate. We'll give people $2 a square foot to take out their grass and put in desert adaptive landscape. The other program we have is our Water Smart program, where people can see their water usage on an hourly basis. So instead of understanding their water usage, when they get their bill and you're like, I don't understand what this means, it doesn't mean anything to me, you can log on to your online payment portal, your utility billing, and you tap on the Water Smart button. And you can, most of us now, this is an infrastructure project, so about 60% of Scottsdale folks have it. You can look at your hourly usage, and you can also set up alerts. So if you have a leak, actually I caught one about 6 months ago with irrigation in my house. I got an email and I was so excited. I was like, look, it works. I knew it worked. But as the policy manager who kind of manages the staff who runs that program, but also a resident, I was like, oh my God, this works. I have an irrigation leak. It's weird to be excited about that. But it really worked. I didn't have to discover that 2 months down the road when my water bill super increased and didn't know what it was.
That's the worst experience. I have had that happen. Right? It's terrible.
So you can log on and get leak alerts, and it's a algorithm that over 72 hours, if it sees consistent flow, it sends you an email, or you can set it for text alerts too. And I think we talk to people about, like, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And so it's really an idea of understanding how on your property, your responsibility is, how do you really hone in on to optimize your water usage and really find the way you can be a desert dweller, but also not wastewater.
For those two programs you mentioned previous to the water notification, where would someone go if they wanted to have someone come out and talk to them about those programs?
So those are all on Scottsdale's website. You can keyword search water conservation, and all of our individual programs. We have a couple other incentive programs, but all of those are on the website.
Those are that's a really cool program that you have. If I was a homeowner, I'd definitely be utilizing that.
Yeah. Well, they have a lot of great information on the website.
Super cool.
How can people stay informed about what's happening with Scottsdale's water supply in the Colorado River?
So this is a tough one because everyone always asks that. They said, I haven't heard about this. And as marketing communication folks, you understand that pushing content out and getting people aware of things is really way easier said than done. Mm-hmm. I think in this world, we are bombarded with content of so different levels. So I will take two things. Yes, it's the city's responsibility to get that content out. But if someone's interested and you have a giant computer in your hand, in your pocket right now, it is also your responsibility to Google it. So we push out content in a bunch of different ways in our social media channels, and we send out things on the e-bill, but also paper bill if you get it. And then we also send out postcards a lot. Mm-hmm. We do workshops twice a year. The library, we're actually about to go through our workshop schedule just right now. So I think signing up for a bunch of, which Scottsdale?
Scottsdale Update. Look at your utility bill.
All of that. Scottsdale Update's really great.
We take a workshop.
Citizens Academy. I went to the first week of Water Citizens Academy last week, and that's just a really cool program in itself, just being able to let the community know that you're there and they can tour these facilities and learn more from actual employees who are doing the real work is just a really cool program that I don't think a lot of people are aware of, and they should be.
What's one thing you wish every Scottsdale resident understood about our water supply?
They're a part of this just as much as your local government. They have a voice. The water department is obviously an important component. We try to get folks aware through a lot of different channels, but the power of change and the power of innovation is really in every citizen's hand, in every business, and being vocal with your leadership and showcasing how important it is to you as a desert dweller is just as important as taking a workshop, and just as important as being as optimal as you can on your own landscape. If it's important to you, I think you should vocalize that it's important to you and really kind of learn about what's going on, because what's going on in Colorado is important to every Arizona, and it affects all of us. And having to find ways to optimize our conservation efforts and optimize our current water resources, but also going out there and finding new supplies. They're not cheap. There are a few out there, but really we can't do this without every single citizen being a partner.
Before we sign off, do you have anything else you'd like to share with us regarding water?
Oh, I mean, if we're going to, I'll do two. So the conservation world, most people really don't understand their water usage. And it's that outdoor irrigation water usage. We have resources at the city. If you want to understand it, we will send someone to your house. There's a lot of times people have a tendency to either over irrigate, and they don't realize that they're doing it. So take a moment and understand, how are you using your water outdoors? And we want to make sure that everyone has a nice outdoor experience, right? But also we want to optimize that drop of water. And then as we walk through the future, that drop of water also means investment. We can't do things the same way we used to. We're really proud of the way we've done things, the governance system within the state, the infrastructure that we've built over the last several decades. But walking into the future and continue being desert dwellers and keeping our city and our valley healthy means further investment. And I think it's really important people understand that.
ScottsdaleAZ.gov, search water conservation, and there's so much more information. We could probably sit here all day and talk water with you, Gretchen, right? Because she has so much knowledge about this subject and great information to share. But we appreciate having you on the show today.
Yes, thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
That's all for this episode of Podsdale. If you enjoyed listening, be sure to subscribe. You can find us on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app. Share episode ideas and provide your feedback by emailing communications@scottsdaleaz.gov. Thanks for listening.